Hey everybody, I'm Dan McClellan. I'm a scholar of the Bible and religion. The fit for this video is a black and white version of Jim Lee's X-Men number 11. Let's take a look at a video.
The Bible never uses the word abortion. Okay? The Bible does say we're not to murder. And murder is killing motivated by selfishness, hatred, or revenge. Obviously, there's such a thing as self-defense, which is different ethically. So murder is killing motivated by selfishness, hatred, or revenge.
That's certainly not a definition of murder that can be found in the Bible. The Bible never defines murder, but based on the way the words for murder are used in their contexts, it is the killing of a person that is considered illegal.
All right, so then obviously the hard question is, when does human life begin?
Yeah.
Right? That's the hard question.
It's the question.
So this is actually not a relevant question, at least as far as the Bible is concerned. Within the Bible, the question is, when does a person begin? Because in the Bible, you can have someone illegally kill a human being who is not considered a full legal person. And the penalty for that illegal killing is much less severe than it would have been if that person were a full legal person. So for instance, if a man owns an ox, then he has been warned that his ox is a gorer, and he allows it to get out, and it kills an Israelite citizen, that's the death penalty. Unless the family of the deceased opts instead to impose a fine upon the owner, and that fine could probably get pretty steep. If the ox gores an enslaved person, however, 30 shekels is the fine. There's no talionic justice. There is no life for life, eye for eye, tooth for tooth. Flat fee of 30 shekels, because that was the life of an enslaved person. It was a little less person than an Israelite and a little more property. And so they had an assigned value to them. Similarly, an owner could beat an enslaved person with a rod, and if they immediately died, then it says they would be avenged. And it's not clear what that vengeance would entail, because if the enslaved person were a debt slave who were an Israelite, the penalty would be more severe because they were considered more of a person than if that enslaved person were a foreigner, in which case the penalty would be less severe. If the enslaved person survives for 2 or 3 days and then dies, there's absolutely no punishment whatsoever, because the enslaved person was the property of the owner. They were more property than person. Similarly, if a pregnant woman is injured by 2 men who are fighting and she miscarries, the penalty is a fine that is decided on by the husband and then arbitrated so that it is not exorbitant. If the 2 men who are fighting accidentally injure the pregnant woman and she is injured or dies, then it is talionic justice, life for life, eye for eye, tooth for tooth. So between the woman and the fetus, the woman is far more a person, a legal person, than the fetus, who is even less legal person than an enslaved person. They are closer to property. They don't even have a standardized value placed on them like an enslaved person does. The value is determined by the husband, so they are considered the property of the husband. So in the Hebrew Bible, abortion would not have been considered murder. We don't know for sure if it would have been considered problematic or not, because they never say, but abortion was something that took place in the ancient world, and absolutely nothing in the Hebrew Bible indicates that they thought of a fetus as a person. When we get to early Judaism, they explicitly lay that out. They make that distinction between a born person and an unborn fetus quite explicit. It is not considered a person. Now, within Greco-Roman period Judaism and early Christianity, the story is different because they fall under the influence of Greek philosophical frameworks. And so the Greek translation of the passage in the Covenant Code that talks about the pregnant woman who is injured actually renegotiates what's going on here. So it's not a question of miscarriage and injury or death to the woman. It is a question of whether or not the fetus was fully formed or not. If the fetus was not fully formed, that's when it's the fine. If the fetus was fully formed, then it is the death penalty. And the reason is because they're adopting an Aristotelian position on the concept of ensoulment, when the soul enters the body and the fetus becomes a person. And there were three different main perspectives on this. According to the Epicureans and the Pythagoreans, the fetus became a person at conception. According to the Aristotelians, it became a person at the quickening, when the fetus was fully formed and began to move on its own. According to the Stoics, it did not become a person until it made contact with the outside air, at which point the soul entered the body. And the earliest Christians debated which of these three positions they were going to adopt. And it wasn't until Augustine that they settled on the Aristotelian position. And so the notion that abortion was murder only held, according to Augustine and the consensus view of Christians after that, if the fetus was fully formed. And that was the position until the 19th century. So if we are considering the Bible and authority on this, the Bible most explicitly treats a fetus as property until it is born. If we are considering early Christian tradition and authority on this, early Christian tradition landed on the consensus view that a fetus became a person at the quickening. So when someone like Cliffe is talking about these ethical decisions, they're not subordinating their position to the authority of the Bible. They're rationalizing their contemporary ethical position into the Bible and overruling what the Bible has to say so that they can still leverage the authority of the Bible to authorize and to legitimize their modern position, which is based on identity politics.